Rob J gave me an incredibly generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon and brings you today's video. Sauron the Dark Lord versus Bruna, partners Malcolm and Breaches, and partners Ishai and Thassa. You can tell it's the weekend. Some of these spikier players are going to be online. And yeah, we've got a 2-lander. We can crack Wayfarer's Bauble easily, so we'll keep this. We draw a Call of the Ring on turn 1, so obviously it's Wayfarer's Bauble. We've got our first couple of turns sorted out. Not managing to draw into another land yet, a Widespread Brutality. So this will have to be an untapped Marsh Flats. Turn it into a blue dual land, I think. The pirate player throws down a Swiftfoot Boots. Goldforged Thopteryx for Bruna. And still no land, so it was good that we had that Wayfarer's Bauble available to us. Have to be the Chasm Skulker here, I think. And then hopefully the Chasm Skulker will stick in play because we'll be able to go for Call of the Ring next turn. And be able to make it the Ring Bearer. An Enlightened Tutor from the Ishai player. And they throw on top a Sol Ring. First commander is Ishai, getting that down as quickly as possible to pile on the plus counters. Trinket Mage also searches out a Sol Ring. 1 Power Stone, so everyone's getting variants of some kind of Sol Ring. And gains a life against the pirate player with the Thopteryx. Alright, turn 4 we get into a land, put our first plus counter on the Skulker. So maybe it's just Call the Ring and we can hold this up as a Tricycle land, maybe hold up the Offer You Can't Refuse, but I doubt we'll use it. So we put a plus counter on Ishai every time we cast a spell also. So we'll have to wait until our next turn to have the Chasm Skulker be tempted by the ring, and we will probably put the 2 life into that as well. And there we see Thassa. I think that is probably worth a counter, to be honest. They could hold on to the treasure and just get it out again straight away next turn. But there's not really any creatures that are going to deal with this. We can make the Chasm Skulker probably be unblockable when we tempt it with the ring, but we'll buy ourselves a turn here. So this is already up to a 6/6 flying commander, and predictably swings in at us. The Izzet player gets down the Sol Ring, and then it is Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator. Can equip the Swiftfoot Boots on here if he wants. It does care about pirates dealing damage, and this is a wizard, so only going to make 1 treasure here most likely. Holds up the single blue mana to equip the Malcolm, and Malcolm swings into the right. 2 commanders in a row. We see Bruna, Light of Alabaster, and deciding not to swing in, brings it round to our turn, so Call of the Ring will tempt the Chasm Skulker. Alright, we draw into a Wheel of Fortune, so that might be worth playing this turn, depending on what we get into here. Alright, a Swamp, so we can draw into more lands off the wheel, I think. Not seeing too many artifacts yet. How much is this going to cost? Yeah, it's still 6 mana, unfortunately. We can at least discard the Filth, and this isn't doing anything for us while we don't have our commander and a huge army in play. So throw down the Swamp. So I'll hold up double blue just in case we get into a mana drain or something. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's try. The Wheel of Fortune. Priority is being held up over here. So it might be that they counter us. And in response, the partner player over here goes for the Teferi's Protection, worried that he's going to get a big hit from this. I'm not going to swing in with it anyway, so if he's got nothing else held up, he might as well use it. So it seems as though we're going to land our Wheel of Fortune here. So the Chasm Skulker gets 7 counters on it, and yeah, still don't have anything. Got Cyclonic Rift for 2 mana, but obviously we'd want to hold that up to overload it. So, yeah, distinct lack of ramp this game. We'll just have to leave it at that and hold back our 11-11. Does have Swamp Walk thanks to the Filth, but no swamps, nor opponent's side of the fields. I probably wouldn't swing in with it here anyway. Not whether there was a Delvin's Veto here, but didn't mind the idea of drawing more cards. Now, if the Ishai does swing in towards us again, because this is now a 9-9, it'll be a 10-10 if we cast something. We're going to have to use the Cyclonic Rift on it, I think, and yeah. Thought it would come in towards us, so we'll watch this get countered now. Looks as though it's going to land though. Alright, that's surprising, shows why you should try your luck. So we save ourselves 10 points of commander damage there. Going for a Grim Tutor after that. Second one from this player. Like to keep track of the tutors that people play. Arcane Signet with 7 cards in hand. Unruly Catapult. 1 damage to each opponent, and whenever you cast instant or sorcery, untap it. Also threw down a Runed Stalactite. So that is equipped onto the creature that just came in, +1/+1, and is every creature type. So this is now a pirate, which I'm assuming is going to be relevant because that does count as a pirate hitting someone. Is it every opponent? Oh yeah, it's each opponent and it is damage, so that's an interesting interaction. So Malcolm cares about every opponent being hit, so if you ping every opponent for 1, as is the case here, then you make 3 treasure. They've got 5 cards in hand. If they were able to consistently play instants or sorceries, then it would be infinite damage, but I suppose that would be difficult to set up. Malcolm swings into the left and makes another treasure. Decides to keep the Swiftfoot boots on his catapult, which shows where he holds his most value here. Bruna swings in down the middle, and thanks to the wheel managed to get a bunch of stuff going here. Is flashing back the Faithful Mending. So that is gain 2, draw 2, discard 2. But in the meantime, before then, he's got Octopus Umbra, a Curiosity, Gift of Immortality, and the Shielded by Faith was in the bin from the wheel, I remember seeing. So this is now an 8/8 with Ward 2, Indestructible, Flying and Vigilance, and you can tap a target creature with power 8 or less. Oh, that's an attack trigger, isn't it, I think? So yeah, that wouldn't have triggered there. But still an 8/8 commander. Decided to discard just then an Imperial Armour and a Karametra's Blessing. And when he hits, the Curiosity draws a card, so back up to 5 in hand. Still has 4 mana left. Diplomatic Immunity. The enchanted creature and the aura have Shroud. So I think the ability cheats Shroud. When it attacks or blocks, you may attach any number of auras to it. Yeah, so that dodges Shroud entirely. Anyway, we see Lookout's Dispersal, counter the spell unless you pay 4, and that untaps the Unruly Catapult, 4 cards in hand for the pirate player, so deals 1 damage to each of us and we'll make 3 more treasure tokens. Now the pirate player is the biggest threat at the moment, I think. The question is, are we going to keep having this guy swing into us? Like, he seemed pretty certain that he wanted to try and take us out as quickly as he could for some reason. We'll continue the chain if we turn into the left against him. We'll kind of confirm his fears. So I think if we hold back, he'll hopefully start to actually assess the table, and this is kind of undeniable that this guy's a threat. If he plays his commander Ishai and then just keeps swinging in towards us and pointing interaction at us, then, well, I don't think there's any teaching him, but we'll try to break the chain of hatred here. Right, so the ring tempts us again. We go up to level 2, and we will pay 2 life again to draw an additional card. There's a Fierce Guardianship, so encourages me to go for the commander this turn, I think. A Ruthless Technomancer is tempting as well. Yeah, we'll get 12 treasure to that, and that's about the only acceleration we've had, so I think we have to do that. Is there any good land that we're likely to draw into? I don't think there's any land that we need to hold back for, so let's just go for the island and play the Ruthless Technomancer. See if we get Swords to Plowshares or something onto our Chasm Skulker. That would feel bad. Don't even have the mana to hardcast the Fierce Guardianship. So Shielded by Faith, they've still got chance to, thanks to the triggers on the stack, to get rid of the Chasm Skulker. But it looks as though we're going to be able to land this. So sack the Chasm Skulker. Could have swung in with it first, but like I said, I'm trying not to make any enemies here. So the Ozolith. When does that trigger? At the beginning of combat, I think? Yeah, it does, so we could put a bunch of plus counters on this if we wanted to. But the Chasm Skulker will make a bunch of squid tokens. We've made a whole load of treasure here with the Technomancer. So we could, with this, go for 3 mana. It takes 6 treasure to sack the treasure and pay for the cost to get the Chasm Skulker back into play, and then we could just put all the plus counters back on again. And then we'd still have 7 treasure left. So we could go our commander and a Nazgul, I think, because we've got 2 lands untapped. So yeah, I think I will actually do that just for the fun of it. I've never really got to play around in all these years with Ruthless Technomancer. Well, there's the Cavern Horde Dragon as well, but that's gonna... yeah, no one has that many treasure or that many artifacts. There's 6, 7, 8 here. So that would cost us 12 treasure in total. We've got 1 left over. And then we make 6, 7, 8, 9. So is that actually worth it then? I think it might be. And this does have haste. So yeah, let's go for that. So we've got 4 treasure left after paying that. And a couple of lands as well. So let's go through to combat. We're not putting the plus counters on the Chasm Skulker after all, although... yeah, we still could have done it. We would have lost all our treasure. But I think this is fine. So this is now an 18-18. Go through to attacks. Go straight down the middle to make some more treasure. Plus this guy's the threat, so we're kind of killing two birds with one stone here. Could make him sack a bunch of treasure here, but then he's not doing anything with the mana at least, so he does allow us to hit. Takes him down to 13. So we go from 4 back up to 14 treasure. So why don't we get down our commander now? And now we're in a tricky spot. We could go for the Nazgul to tempt ourselves and go for discarding and drawing again. But I really want to hold up this Fierce Guardianship. So we could still set up with a Psychosis Crawler. Hold on to this for now so that we can tempt ourselves with the ring whenever we need to. And maybe just reanimate the Chasm Skulker again. Can we do this at instant speed? Yes, we can. We actually are shy of 1 mana for the Psychosis Crawler, unfortunately, if we do want to reanimate this. Don't suppose it particularly matters if we get the Skulker into play or not. So let's just get this down after all then. Problem is we don't have any flyers held up now. So Bruna, the Malcolm can swing straight in towards us. Looking like there's not any haste here. Might be a board wipe though. Now, do we go for Solemn or not to get an additional land into play because we might not have the treasure by next turn? Yeah. We're effectively trading out 2 treasure for 1 land because we've held up the lands here, so go for the Solemn. And now we're going to see a spell be cast here, so that will amass orcs for the first time for us. Or not, there's a wizard cycling. So searching for a wizard and putting it into hand. And with that, please tell me you're not about to do Thoracle combo. Well, he's saying good game, so I'm assuming that he's thinking he's going to win here. I mean, there's 3 blue players at the table, so can't assume. Even if you have counter magic held up for your combo, you could still have the counters be countered. So there we see Thassa's Oracle. So with that on the stack, we'll assume that he's going for exiling his entire... Yep, there you go. The Demonic Consultation. So it looks like we're the only ones that are able to interact with this, so if he's got counter magic held up for the Fierce Guardianship, then the game is over. This game wasn't labelled as CEDH, so I wasn't expecting to see anything like this. So our dear CEDH friend here, Scoops, didn't manage to curb stomp everyone. Now we see Breaches, the pirate player, so we'll start getting some card advantage with all these treasure as well. Problem is for him, he doesn't have a flyer to defend against our Cavern Horde dragons, so he has to assume that he has to either take this out this turn or leave a blocker back. Captain Storm, Cosmium Raider. Whenever an artifact you control enters, put a plus counter on a pirate, so could buff up the Malcolm. So dealing damage, yeah, I think he just dealt damage with the Unruly Catapult, so plus counters, and it looks like they are both going on to the Malcolm. Breaches triggers as well. This isn't combat damage either, so does get the exile off it. Siren Storm Tamer being cast now, so we'll be able to counter something that targets a creature, and that's exactly the type of thing that I'm probably going to forget about. Our Swamp Walking army is up to a 6/6 though. Oh, in fact, speaking of which, Swamp Walk, yeah, I need to bear that in mind as well, because it might be that our opponent can't block us if we manage to get into an Urborg. The Swiftfoot Boots, he does have another flying blocker here, so it does mean that he can either hold back the Malcolm or swing in with the Siren Storm Tamer. Not sure if he should swing in with this or the Malcolm, because obviously he wants to hold this up as a counter spell, so maybe he could swing this in, and then if he needs to sacrifice it, it was tapped, so it couldn't block anyway. So yeah, that seems to be the plan. Goes in towards us, and this is a 2/2 hexproof haste. Goes into the right, the 2/2 wizard to the right as well. Malcolm hits us in the air. So the 8/8 blocks the 1/1. Yeah, that's a point. Yeah, they kind of threw this away, didn't they then? I was just assuming that it had come in at us so that they seem to be overextending into the red zone here. Anyway, Bruna is blocking. They are just trying to spread as much damage as possible. Maybe they want to get the additional treasure for like a Cyclonic Rift or something. But it's pretty risky. I mean, it didn't make him block with the Goldforged Thopteryx. So let's see here now. This is now a 12/12. If it gets double strike, it could take us out. It does have Shroud, +1/+1 for each card in your hand. Malcolm triggers, they've got 5 treasure at the moment. The breaches will get them some card advantage as well. Oh, we didn't look at what cards were exiled actually. They exiled our Urborg off the top, so it was incoming. And yeah, there's nothing in exile over here. Maybe they cast something? Don't you exile off the top of each opponent's library? Yeah, so I'm not sure why it didn't exile from here. Maybe he cast something and I haven't realised. Oh, he's got 2 Swiftfoot Boots in play. Alright, so he's stolen a Swiftfoot Boots from over here at some point. More plus counters onto the Malcolm. Hasn't left back any flyers though, so I'm assuming he's just going to be able to deal with this. Exiled a Nazgul from us as well, so those are a couple of good cards that we could have done with drawing into. Probably, in fact definitely, it would have been play Urborg to get Swamp Walk online, then cast the Nazgul. That would have tempted us with the ring. We would have discarded our 2 lands and drawn into 4 cards, including another Nazgul to carry on the chain potentially. A Sage's Reverie is good to get rid of from our opponent, although he's managing to empty his graveyard anyway, but this is card draw as well, I think. Yeah, draw a card for each aura. They've only got 4 cards in hand at the moment. So now does have the 7 treasure tokens that he might need for the Rift. He's got 2 cards in hand. Decides to cast the Sage's Reverie. So they'll draw 1 card here, I'm guessing. Yeah, draws them up to 3 in hand. And then decides to pass with 3 mana held up, so could still have spot removal for this, but we're just going to have to test him on it and hope that he doesn't scoop in response to the attack, because, oh, or not, he could just scoop there. Okay, so it is now a 1v1. I assumed that the Bruna was going to swing in towards us anyway. Noteworthy that these have Island Walk as well, so what is that, 13 of these? No, just 12 of them. Just a 12-12 Bruna swinging in at us, thankfully, so I don't think there's any double strike or anything on here. Indestructible Shroud. Can tap some creatures, but we can't block it anyway. Flying in Vigilance, so basically just need to not take another hit next turn. Got 4 cards in hand, so they could still get some more power onto the Bruna. Okay, trying to target our Sauron triggers the ward. They don't have to pay it here, though. So the Pirate play was absolutely relevant. This would have been a foregone conclusion if we'd drawn into that Urborg. Well, I'm not too sure we're going to do much of anything now. Go down to 8, Curiosity triggers to draw. A board wipe would do it, but deciding to pass at that, they've got 6, 7, 8 mana held up with 5 cards in hand. We're going down next turn anyway, we might as well draw a card to the enchantment. We could make a big creature unblockable. Make sure I'm understanding this. Can't be blocked by creatures with greater power, so we'll just put that on the Orc army, I suppose, to make it so that it can get straight through, just in case our opponent plays any more spells. And then that triggers the Sauron, so we can try our luck here and try and get into something of relevance. Already used our Cyclonic Rift, unfortunately. So we will discard that Nazgul. And the Psychosis Crawler triggers for some additional damage onto our opponent, or it's actually loss of life. Got the Manifold Key, which I don't think really matters. Scroll of Isildur as well. Gains control of an artifact, so we could get the Sunforged Thoptrix out of the way. And then we draw during the draw phase. There's a Mana Vault, so Mana Vault and Manifold Key makes sense here. Let's just get down a swamp. Now that we're not waiting on Urborg. They are holding up priority on us. Like I said, might as well get down the Manifold Key. We could make a target creature not be blocked with this as well. So if we get 12 damage through with the squid, plus 7 on this, plus 7 on this, is 14, plus 12 is 26. So we'll just use that mana, that floating mana immediately to put it onto our commander. And our opponent decides to scoop at that, so he didn't have anything apparently. Drawing into there, we would have gone for the Nazgul next turn to be tempted by the ring, which would have knocked our opponent down to 0 at that point, but would have drawn us into another Nazgul to do it again if we had the mana, which I think we would have done. Yeah, it wasn't looking hopeful there, but a few lucky draws, which you're more likely to get into with your commander as long as you can keep being tempted by the ring, which is obviously what the deck is built around. But shows why you should keep playing it out and not assume how the game is going to go, because you never know, might fall in your favour. Hopefully you all enjoyed that one. I think we'll be on to the next Foundations set. I think it's called Foundations next week, so look forward to that and hopefully see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.